Hello future FLTAs and future Fulbrighters. I hope you're all doing well. So this is me, Sufyan Sarawi. I'm from Zagora and I am a Fulbright alumnus. In this video, basically it's going to be a short video in which I will talk to you about two main aspects. The first one is I will talk to you about the essay that you have to write or you have to accompany to your application package for the FLTA program. And the second one is I will talk to you about also the other essay that you have to submit for the pedagogy. So as you may know, that there are two main tasks that are required from you throughout your application process, which is the first one, you're required to write an essay in which you elaborate on how you will share an aspect or two aspects or three aspects of your own culture. And second aspect is the essay that you are required to write about the pedagogy of teaching. In other words, what is it that you want to teach and how you will go about teaching it. So in general, this is the scope of this video, and without any further ado, let's get into it. Fulbright FLTA is very known worldwide, and it is the most prestigious scholarship, and consider yourself really lucky if you get into it. Unfortunately, in this video I won't have the time to talk to you about FLTA itself, to define it and the procedures for the application, but I refer you to my video in which I talked about it in a detailed manner. As I said, this video will be mainly about two things: about the pedagogy of teaching and about your role as an ambassador of your own culture and your own country. In other words, as an FLTA, you are required to do two things in the US. Alongside your cultural ambassador duties, that you will go to different universities, different colleges, or maybe schools, or maybe events in your community, that you will share your own culture. You may want to talk about your dress code, your food. There are a lot of things that I'm sure you would be interested to share with your American peers. And then second duty as an FLTA is that you will have to teach your own language or your own dialect, of course, with the help of a supervisor in the US. But that's not our concern in this video. My concern is to tell you how you should go about making a successful application, thereby hopefully you will be selected to conduct a one-year exchange program in the US. So let's get into it. Number one is your role as a cultural ambassador. What does that mean? What am I supposed to do as a cultural ambassador? So basically, don't freak out. There are two things that you need to do. Number one is that you want to make sure that you represent your culture in the best way possible. Talk about dress code, talk about languages, talk about ethnicities. There is a lot to talk about, and I'm sure your culture is replete and is a rich culture in terms of different aspects that incorporates. The second thing is that you also may want to learn about from other culture and to share as possible as you could with your own American peers, as I said, or with other Fulbrighters, or with other international people that I'm sure you will be meeting throughout your stay in the US. So that's number one. And in the application process, and this is the core idea of my video, throughout your application process, you will be required to submit one essay in which you talk about one aspect of your culture or two aspects, depending on your choice, and how you will go about sharing that or them. And this is what I want to answer. So there are key factors that determine your successful application in this process. Number one is that the choice of the topic. When you want to talk about your culture, you make sure that you choose something that is exclusively yours, and that is something exclusive to your culture. For example, as a Moroccan and I want to talk about my own culture, I would choose to talk about tea serving, for example, or I will also choose to talk about dress code, taking into account that Morocco is very rich in this regard. There are a lot of ethnicities with different cultures and with different heritages. So this is something that you could talk about, and I'm sure this would be a very good essay, as long as it exclusively talks about something that is typically yours. So that's number one. And number two is you need to elaborate on how you will present this aspect. In other words, how you will share your own culture. Would you bring with you tangible things to the US? Would you talk about it using PPT presentations, or where would you like to share it? Only inside your university or your host university, or in other colleges as well, or in other schools, or in local festivals. There are a lot of options that you can choose from, and you can choose them all actually if you think that's something you could do. And I urge you and I encourage you to do so, because you will be there for 1 year and you want to make sure that you share your culture as on a wide scale as possible. And this is the perfect way to do it, is try to engage in your host institution, local community, in other schools, and also possible, as you will be traveling around in the US, I'm sure, that also you could use that time to share more your culture with Americans or with international that you will be meeting throughout your stay. The third thing is that you should be mindful about a very key important aspect, which is plagiarism. Plagiarism in the US is a big thing, and it is strictly forbidden. In other words, when you are writing your essay, you want to make sure that what you write is originally yours. And I highlight on this. It is originally yours. There is no harm whatsoever to get inspired from other writings on the net, for example, or your friend or colleagues or any other things that could help you to get a better idea of the essay and how it should look like. But the final draft should be yours and no one's essay. And this is really a very key important. This is a key factor that could largely and it will determine a successful application from a non-successful application. Your essay, remember that it doesn't have to be perfect. It does not have to be flawless. You're not Shakespeare and they don't expect you to be Shakespeare. Just make sure that what you write there is exclusively yours, and that's your own writing, your original words and phrases and sentences. I hope I'm clear. And then the second topic of my video concerns the pedagogy of teaching, and here I will try to be as brief as possible. So the pedagogy of teaching, or in other words, alongside your role as an FLTA, a cultural ambassador, that you will also serve as a teacher. You could either be a primary teacher or a teacher assistant or a teaching assistant. That you will have a primary teacher and you will be assisting him or her, basically. If you are a primary teacher, then you are the one who will take care of the class. You will have to design your own syllabus, and you will have to take care of your own exam correction and exam implementation and everything that is related to your classroom management. And in this regard, before we get to the US, we are in the application process, so we should hold down a little bit. So in your application process, you will be required to write an essay in which you detail an aspect of your own language and how you will teach that. And here I would like to give one example from the Arabic language, as it is my mother tongue. We know that Arabic is different from the Latin languages, of course. And there are a lot of differences between both languages. And let's take the example of da, or adha al-mu'jama, or al-qaf instead of kaf. So we have these words that there are no counterparts, or there are no similar words in English, at least. You will never find qa or da or va in English. And this could be really a very interesting thing to talk about in your essay. You may want to talk about that, taking into account that Arabic has few sounds that don't exist in English. I would like to teach them in this way. And you could also talk about the use of ICT, information classroom technology tools, like data projector, computers, or also other platforms that you can find on the net. And you may want to make use of them in your writing as well as when you get to the US, hopefully, if your application will be selected. And again, the third thing I wish to highlight before I end this video is plagiarism. I urge you to not to plagiarize. If you take something from any other source, cite it. Clearly cite it. And I would advise you to just use your own work. You don't even need to cite from any other sources. Just try as much as possible to make your own essay. And as I said, it does not have to be perfect. What they will evaluate you about in this phase is the content of your writing, not the way you write it. Is how you will share your own culture and how you will teach that language. But they will evaluate, of course, your English at a later stage, which is when you get to the interviews. With this, I will end my video, and if you like the content of my YouTube channel, I would be very appreciative to give me a thumb and to subscribe to my channel for more news and more latest videos that I will be uploading so often. Peace.